It was a hearing that was combative right from the very start.
You can let her filibuster all day long, but not on our watch. Not on our time. No way. And I told you about that, Attorney General, before you started.
You don't tell me.
Yeah, I did tell you because we saw what you did in the Senate.
A hearing with Attorney General Pam Bondi that got so heated, one Democratic member left the hearing room.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Adam is here. Let me tell you something that should absolutely terrify anyone in Trump's orbit right now. Pam Bondi's entire world is collapsing in real time.
Didn't ask Merrick Garland anything about Epstein, not once, when he was...
Weak sauce.
And also, I want the record to reflect that, with this anti-Semitic culture right now, she voted against a resolution condemning...
Oh, is Jewish. I just want to be clear.
So you want to go there, Attorney General?
Over the Department of Justice redactions in the file, including Leslie Wexner, founder of Victoria's Secret.
Within 40 minutes, Wexner's name was added back.
Within 40 minutes of me catching you red-handed.
There was one redaction out
where
of
he's
over
listed as a co-conspirator.
This guy has Trump derangement syndrome.
Congresswoman Pramila Jaya.
And it's happening so fast and so publicly that even her closest allies don't know how to defend her anymore. A bombshell internal leak from the Justice Department has exposed that she lied about the Epstein files. She just got absolutely destroyed in a congressional hearing where she was accused of running a massive cover-up to protect sexual predators. And now members of Congress are openly calling for her resignation, not just investigating her, not just criticizing her, demanding that she step down as Attorney General of the United States.
Apologize for what your Department of Justice has put them through.
I'm not going to get in the gutter for her theatrics.
Afterwards, several of those survivors sitting down with NBC's Hallie Jackson.
Show me your hands if you were satisfied with what you heard from the Attorney General today. Nobody. There wasn't even an adult in the room that could apologize for the damage done to children and girls.
Saying they just want accountability.
We've heard several times our government say, we're moving on from this, and that just enrages me.
And here's the part that makes this genuinely unprecedented. Evidence came out that she's been spying on members of Congress, tracking what they search for in DOJ databases, monitoring which Epstein files they look at. The Attorney General of the United States surveilling sitting lawmakers. That's authoritarian. That's the kind of thing you see in dictatorships, not democracies. And it's blowing up her credibility and potentially ending her career. Let's walk through exactly what happened because the timeline is devastating. On February 11th, just days ago, Pam Bondi testified before the House Judiciary Committee about the Epstein files. And this wasn't some routine oversight hearing. Survivors were in the room, women who Jeffrey Epstein abused, sitting right there watching Bondi testify. And Democrats tore into her with a ferocity that left even veteran observers stunned. Congressman Jamie Raskin looked her in the eye and said, and I'm quoting directly, "You're running a massive Epstein cover-up right out of the Department of Justice." He accused her of siding with perpetrators and ignoring the victims. And here's the thing. The evidence backs him up completely. Congress passed a law called the Epstein Files Transparency Act. It required the Justice Department to release 6 million documents related to Jeffrey Epstein. 6 million flight logs, black books, witness statements, everything. The law said these documents had to be released with only minimal redactions to protect ongoing investigations or genuine privacy concerns. The whole point was transparency. The whole point was to expose everyone involved with Epstein's trafficking ring, no matter how powerful they are. But Bondi's DOJ only released about 3 million documents, half of what the law required. And the documents they did release? They exposed victims' names and personal information while protecting the names of powerful co-conspirators, people like billionaire Les Wexner, who had deep financial ties to Epstein. His name was initially blacked out or withheld entirely, but victims? Their full names, their addresses, in some cases their private details, all exposed. It's backwards, it's cruel, and it's exactly the opposite of what the law required. Now Bondi sat in that hearing and tried to defend this, tried to claim the redactions were only to protect victims, tried to say the DOJ was following the law, But then internal documents leaked, DOJ memos showing that Bondi's own staff warned her they were violating the statute, that they were protecting the wrong people, that victims were being exposed while perpetrators were being shielded. And Bondi ignored those warnings. She went ahead with the flawed release anyway, and now those leaked memos are everywhere and they prove she lied to Congress under oath. That's perjury. That's a crime. And it gets worse. During the hearing, Bondi showed up with a binder, and this binder was labeled, and I am not making this up, Jayapal Pramila Search History, Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal. Inside this binder, a list of every Epstein file document that Jayapal had searched for in the DOJ database. Every query she ran, every file she accessed, the Justice Department had been tracking her, monitoring her, surveilling a sitting member of Congress. When this came out, when CNBC obtained images of that binder, Jayapal went ballistic. She said this is entirely inappropriate. She said the DOJ has no business monitoring what members of Congress are searching for in databases. She accused Bondi of weaponizing the Justice Department against Congress itself, and she's right. This is a massive violation of separation of powers. The executive branch spying on the legislative branch. That's authoritarian. That's the kind of thing that triggers constitutional crises. And now members of Congress are calling for Bondi to resign. Congressman Ted Lieu went on record this week saying Bondi should step down. He accused her of lying under oath about following Trump's directives to prosecute his enemies, about lying about the completeness of the Epstein release. And he warned that Congress may pursue perjury and obstruction referrals if she stays. Perjury referrals, meaning criminal charges for lying to Congress. That's how serious this is. Bondi isn't just facing political pressure. She's facing potential criminal liability. And the walls are closing in fast. Let's talk about what happened with the survivors in that hearing room because it's one of the most powerful moments I've ever seen in congressional testimony. Over a dozen Epstein survivors were sitting in the audience watching Bondi testify. At one point, a lawmaker asked them to raise their hands if the DOJ had ever contacted them about the document releases, to warn them, to get their input, to ask if they wanted their names redacted. Hands went up all over the room. A dozen survivors, maybe more, all raising their hands, all confirming that Bondi's DOJ never reached out, never asked, never cared. And Bondi had to sit there and watch, had to see these women, these survivors of horrific abuse, silently testifying to her failures. And she couldn't look them in the eye. Multiple reporters noted that Bondi refused to make eye contact with the survivors, refused to acknowledge them, just stared straight ahead or down at her notes because she knew. She knew what she'd done and she couldn't face them. Now let's talk about the leaked memos because these are the smoking guns. Internal DOJ documents that show Bondi knew she was violating the Epstein Files Transparency Act and did it anyway. The memos show that career prosecutors, not political appointees but career DOJ lawyers who've been there for years, warned Bondi's leadership that the planned document release was inadequate, that it didn't comply with the statute, that it was protecting the wrong people, and they recommended a different approach: release more documents, protect victims, expose co-conspirators, follow the law. But Bondi's political team overruled them, decided that protecting Trump's allies was more important than following the statute, and went ahead with the flawed release. And now those memos have leaked. Someone inside the DOJ, someone who's had enough of Bondi's corruption, sent these documents to Congress and to the media. And they're devastating because they prove Bondi lied. When she testified that the DOJ was following the law, that was a lie. When she claimed redactions were only to protect victims, that was a lie. When she said the department was doing everything possible to comply with the Transparency Act, that was a lie. And now there's documentary evidence proving all of it. Internal memos from her own department contradicting everything she said under oath. This has created a panic inside the Justice Department, because if these memos leaked, what else might leak? What other documents might be out there showing coordination between Bondi and Trump on weaponizing the DOJ? What other evidence might exist of political interference in cases, of dropping investigations into Trump's allies, of launching bogus investigations into Trump's enemies? The leak has blown open the possibility that there's a whistleblower or multiple whistleblowers inside DOJ who are fed up with Bondi's corruption and are ready to expose everything. And that terrifies Trump's inner circle because they've been operating under the assumption that they could control the narrative, control what information gets out. But if career DOJ employees are leaking, if they're bypassing Bondi's political leadership and going straight to Congress and the media, then Trump and Bondi have lost control. And anything could come out. So what happens next? Congressman Ted Lieu has laid out a detailed case for why Bondi must resign. First, she lied about following the Epstein transparency law. The leaked memos prove it. Second, she lied about not following Trump's directives to prosecute his enemies. There's reporting showing she coordinated directly with Trump on which cases to pursue and which to drop. Third, she's been spying on members of Congress, which is a violation of separation of powers. Fourth, she's destroyed the credibility of the Justice Department by weaponizing it for political purposes. And Lieu said if she doesn't resign, Congress should pursue perjury and obstruction referrals, criminal charges for lying to Congress under oath and for obstructing congressional oversight. And Lieu isn't alone. Other Democrats are echoing the call. Victims' advocates are demanding accountability. Legal experts are horrified. Former DOJ officials are speaking out. The calls are getting louder. The pressure is building. And Bondi is increasingly isolated. Even some Republicans are privately expressing concern. Not publicly yet, but privately they're telling reporters that Bondi's handling of the Epstein files is a political disaster, that it's hurting the party, that it might be time for her to go. For the Epstein files themselves, this might actually lead to fuller releases. Congress is pissed. They passed a law requiring transparency, and Bondi violated it. So they might pass new legislation with even stricter requirements. They might hold hearings demanding the remaining 3 million documents. They might subpoena DOJ officials and demand compliance. And with the leaked memos showing that the incomplete release was a deliberate choice rather than a legal necessity, Bondi's excuses for withholding documents are gone. She's going to have to either release everything or face contempt of Congress. For Trump, this is a nightmare. The Epstein files are one of his biggest vulnerabilities. His name is in those documents. His connections to Epstein are documented. And if the full files get released, it could be politically devastating, could expose relationships he's denied, could implicate people in his orbit, could give his opponents ammunition for the 2026 midterms and beyond. And now his handpicked attorney general is failing to keep the lid on, is getting exposed for running a cover-up, is facing potential criminal referrals and resignation demands. And Trump can't really defend her because defending Bondi means defending the Epstein cover-up, and that's politically toxic. The bigger picture is this. Pam Bondi tried to run a cover-up, tried to protect Trump and his allies by burying the Epstein files, but internal DOJ employees leaked the truth. Congress exposed her lies. Survivors testified to her failures. And now she's facing resignation demands, potential criminal referrals, and the complete collapse of her credibility. This is what happens when you try to weaponize the Justice Department for political purposes. Eventually, the truth comes out. Eventually, the system pushes back. And eventually, you face consequences. We don't know yet if Bondi will resign or be forced out. But we know this. Her time as Attorney General is marked by scandal, by lies, by cover-ups, and by betrayal of the very people she was supposed to protect. And that's a legacy that will follow her forever.